So the main reason why most people never win in life is because they never put themselves in a position to win. And what do I mean by that? I mean, they never put themselves in opportunities that may lead to an outcome that jumpstarts their future. And I'll give you some examples of that. When I was 23, 24, 25, 26, most of my mid-20s and early 20s, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. That's all I wanted to do. Before that, in high school, I was in the health academy. I wanted to do sports medicine. Wanted to be a sports doctor, team doctor. Like, the doctors on a professional basketball team or NFL team. That's what I wanted to do. But in my early 20s, when I went to 4-year college, when I transferred over, I wanted to get into business. Because at that point, I was introduced to entrepreneurship, and I knew that's where I wanted to take my life, where I wanted to take my career. And it wasn't just enough for me to go to school and learn about, business. So first of all, let's talk about school. I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I wanted to go into something that helped me even further my chances in succeeding in entrepreneurship. There was an entrepreneurship degree. It just started, fairly new. I didn't think it was right for me to take it because I felt like it was mainly a degree for students who families had businesses that they were gonna one day take over. It wasn't really practical in the working world. I wasn't coming out of college with a business. So I didn't see myself really getting a good paying job with just an entrepreneurship degree. So what was the next best thing? I talked to my dad. He grew up in business, project manager for Kraft, so he knows a little something about business. So he tells me about supply chain. This is 2013. Nobody knew what supply chain was then. Maybe people that were already in business, but the working world, like everybody outside of them had no clue what supply chain is. The only reason they really know what supply chain is today is because we had a whole supply chain issue because of COVID. But 2013, he was telling me and explaining to me about supply chain. You can do supply chain. It'll teach you how a business runs from within, like operational wise. And there's very many different avenues you can go within supply chain. You can go into operations. You can go into logistics. You can go into project management. You can go into purchasing, so there was a lot of different avenues you could go based off of your personality, your characteristics, and so on and so on. So I was like, cool, I'm going to do that because it'll at least teach me how a business runs from the inside. So I'll understand numbers. I'll understand how things are supposed to flow within the manufacturing process. I'll understand Kanban systems. I'll understand lean manufacturing. I understand all these different terms and ways of producing products that create efficiency for a company. So I did that. Little did I know that the school I went to had one of the top supply chain programs in the country. And I was like, even better. I'm gonna be able to get a great high-paying job out of this, and I'm gonna really know my numbers. I'm gonna really know how business runs. So when I wanna have my own business, this is gonna help me. I spent a lot of time watching things like shows like Bar Rescue, Restaurant Impossible, The Prophet, and watching all these people that had no lick of understanding of anything about business try to run a business. And I could like totally see where they were failing at because I was in business at that time. I was learning business and, just you see the world the way you're taught. So I'm just thinking like, why would they run a business that way? Why would they not care about financials? Why would they not have the numbers? Why would they not know how much they're spending in comparison to how much they're making to know if they're profiting or not? So I was getting myself ready, putting myself in positions to win for when my time came. But it didn't just stop there. I also joined clubs. I went on meetup.com. I believe that website is still around, where you can find people that have similar interests in things that you do, and you can go meet them and you guys can collaborate, get to know each other. You know, you have a common interest, and that is actually a great way to make friends if you struggle with making friends. But that's what I did at the time. I looked for, people that were trying to start businesses, or people that were looking for people with business ideas. I was going to those type of round tables, coffee meetings, just to hear ideas and see what projects different people were working on. And not only that, but networking. I'm getting to understand and know some of the entrepreneurs in the community. We generate business for the community. So political people would come in sometimes. At the time, it was Bobby Hopewell. He was the mayor of Kalamazoo. So there was times where, I was talking to him, meeting him, getting familiar with him, because I was putting myself in those situations. I was putting myself in those rooms to get to know these people. I was going to entrepreneurship events. I was going to events in Chicago. Chicago was 2 hours away from me, and that's, with no traffic. I was going to entrepreneurship events in Chicago. I met Damon John that way, the creator of Fubu, who's also one of the sharks on Shark Tank. I met Damon John that way. Took a picture with him. I'm mad I lost that phone because I wish I still had that picture. But I was putting myself in that environment because that's what I wanted to be. That's who I wanted to become. So in order to become that, I wanted to be surrounded by people that were already in that arena. I wanted to rub shoulders with them. I wanted to rub elbows with them. I wanted to get familiar with them, maybe pass ideas to them. I had John Schmidt. I never forget him. He owned a restaurant. He used to own a restaurant in Kalamazoo, very popular restaurant downtown. And he became like my mentor. He knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I remember asking him one day, like, John, can you mentor me? Like, this is something I really want to do. I don't know how to become it without your help. It's a foreign ground. It's something foreign. You're not taught how to build a business in school, So I didn't have the blueprint. I didn't understand. I was trying to do the best I could on self-knowledge, reading books, the business model canvas, Peter Thiel's book, I can't even think of it right now, Zero to One. Eric Ries, The Startup Way. He even signed one of my books. I met him too, because I was putting myself out there, and I joined an entrepreneurship club where we went out to San Francisco, met with different tech companies. Google Ventures was one of them, the venture capital side of Google. They invest in companies to bring under the Alphabet umbrella. Rick Klaus. Actually, he just wrote me the other day. He was a partner at Google Venture. You're talking about important people. I just talked to him maybe 3 days ago. He wrote underneath one of my videos, and I told him, constantly trying to network, that whenever I'm back home in Northern California, dinner is on me. So I'm always putting myself in positions to win. So when it's my time, I'm ready. But you'll never win if you don't put yourself out there. You have to be willing to be courageous. And it's not like I had somebody that was doing all these things with me. No, I was doing some of these things alone, solo dolo, going to these events alone, kind of nervous, kind of scared. I'm young, in my young 20s, mid 20s. I'm kind of scared. I don't know none of these people. Intellectually wise, maybe I'm feeling a little inferior because at the time I wasn't as intelligent as I am now. Of course, with age comes wisdom and stuff. But at that time, I'm talking and conversating with smart individuals. But I always have confidence in myself. Don't get me wrong. I always got confidence in myself and in my belief in my abilities and the things that I can do. And so I'm never scared on that front. Maybe a little timid because it's a new environment and I'm by myself, but never afraid to hold my own. But yeah, I was always putting myself in positions to win. And in order to win in life, to win in anything that you're trying to become or trying to achieve or trying to obtain, you have to put yourself out there. You know, you miss 100% of the shots you never take. What is that, a Wayne Gretzky quote? I think it's also a Michael Jordan quote. I think they both have that same quote. But it is true. You have to put yourself out there, whether you fail or not. Failing is okay. Failing is just a learning opportunity. Now you know what not to do. So the next time you choose to do something, you know not to do it the way you did it before because you saw the result of how it ended when you made that mistake before. So it's learning opportunities. Failing is never bad, and I don't see it as bad. I encourage it because you learn so much more through your failures. You learn so much more through your trials and the obstacles. They build something within you. They build grit. They build a certain level of strength, belief in yourself, confidence in yourself. It makes it harder to knock you down the next time, and eventually you'll get it right. So this is why you're not winning in life, because you're not putting yourself out there. You're not being courageous. You're being scared. You're playing the sideline. You're saying tomorrow I'll do it. I'll do it when I have enough money to get this. I'll start making videos on YouTube when I get this specific camera. No, just buy a camera, buy what you can afford, and start uploading. Because as long as you have these little mechanisms in a way that are slightly delaying you, they're going to continue to delay you. Oh, I'm camera shy. I don't want to be in front of the camera. Oh, I have nobody to go there with me. I don't want to go alone. You got to be willing to do this stuff on your own. If you're not, you don't want it bad enough. What did Eric Thomas say? You need to want it as bad as you need to breathe. That's how bad you need it. That's how bad you need to want it. And so I wanted it that bad. I remember reaching out to George Hoyam, who works for InQtel, IQT. You don't believe me? You guys can look this all up. IQT is the CIA's venture capital firm. They invest in technology for the CIA. I wanted to work for them. I've always wanted to work in venture capital, and I thought it was just pretty badass if I could work in venture capital with the CIA. So I met George Hoyle. He was an alumni at my university. I told him at a dinner, George, I know I have a supply chain background. I don't typically come from, the finance background in order to work at a VC, because typically venture capital firms, they like people that maybe have finance backgrounds or have backgrounds of where they worked with other startup companies or something like that, very young companies, and help build them. They like those type of people working for them. So I told him, I come from a total different world. I come from, supply chain. But what you have to be able to do is you got to sell yourself. I sold him on how supply chain correlates into entrepreneurship and owning a business. Me relaying information of, I know how businesses run from an operational standpoint. So though I don't have the typical background of finance, I understand business. And it's like, okay, Corey, yeah, we talked a little bit. And He gave me his information. His other guy that was right under him, his associate, AJ. I remember these guys' names, man. You just don't forget them. That's how important it was to me. AJ, he also gave me his card, seemed like a cool guy. And so a little time went by. After the dinner, I wrote George an email. Hey, George, how you doing? How's AJ doing? How's the family doing? I'm just emailing you to check in on you to make sure everything is going right, everything is going good with everything, and you guys over there at IQT. He responded. I did that for about 6 months. 6 months. Every month I was writing a pretty long email. I wish I still had those emails on my college email address, and I don't have access to it anymore. But I wish I could just see it because that was my grit. That's how determined I was, and I wish I had that to just post to show how determined I was at that time. But I did that for 6 months. Not hounding him, but making sure he knows that, hey, I want to work for you. I want to be a part of that company. So I'm emailing him. Hey, how's your wife doing? How's the kids doing? Hey, I'm going to school in Michigan. He's in San Francisco, Silicon Valley. I'm telling him that, hey, I'm in town. Can I take you out to dinner? Knowing damn well I wasn't in town. But I was so willing to spend my little college funds to fly all the way back home to Northern California just to take that dinner with him and fly back. That's how important it was to me. That's how you win. And so he was like, Corey, I'm actually in DC, because they also had, I think like their headquarters was in DC. CIA, it only makes sense for it to be in DC. And so he said, I'm in DC, but let me know another time, maybe around the winter or something. I'll be off and I'll be with my family. And I can squeeze something at that time. So I came back. I came back home for that December. I went, had lunch with him, went back home. And then in January, like at the end of January, I told him that I wanted him to take a look at me to be a portfolio manager. I wanted to take that spot as a portfolio manager. I saw that they had that position open. I wanted to do that. And portfolio manager was just managing the companies that were under his portfolio, companies that the firm had invested in to make sure that they're staying on top of their P's and Q's and doing everything that's, that has been agreed to. So I wanted that. And so because I was so friendly and familiar with him, and he knew who I was, he could put a face to my application. When it came across his table, he instantly shot me off to somebody else. He was like, hey, I want you to take a look at Corey. I know him, he's a good kid and everything. I want you to interview with him. So I'm interviewing with her. And let me tell you, I kind of dropped the ball. Young. So I interviewed with her, Jenna. She's off doing great things now. But at the time I interviewed for her, great interview. I didn't hear anything for like a week or so. I didn't hear anything. And I was like confused. I called and I talked to a lady named Grace, and she didn't know who I was. So she was going to make me start the whole interview. I was like, I already interviewed with Jenna. Like, what happened with her? And she was like, oh, Jenna's no longer with the company. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I found out from LinkedIn that she moved on to Amazon. She was doing in a top position over at Amazon. I'm like, oh man, she messed up my chances. And really she did it. I dropped the ball because I should have jumped on them like gangbusters and was like, hey, I still want you guys to look at me for this job, for this position, but I didn't. I didn't stay on the attack. And I kind of like felt defeated because I didn't hear anything back and she was gone. I felt kind of defeated for some reason, and I stopped pursuing them. I stopped saying anything. I didn't say anything back to George. I kind of left it off. So that was my mess up. I told myself never again. And I always tell myself never again when I make a mistake that I really don't want to do again. And usually I don't, because I make it a mental note, never again. But the opportunity doesn't arise unless I put myself out there, unless I put myself in a position to win, unless I constantly hit up George, hey, I'm thinking, hey, how's the family going? How's the team doing? How's AJ doing? I'm showing my care for him and his team. Something I learned from Dale Carnegie, how to win friends and influence people, is to actually care about people and actually show interest in people instead of yourself. Care for other people before you ask them for something. So I spent 6 months caring for him, nurturing that relationship before asking him for something. So after them 6 months, me asking him for something doesn't seem like that's all I wanted from him. I built a relationship that felt genuine, that seemed genuine, because it was. But that opportunity doesn't come unless I put myself out there to win. Unless I be courageous and show him that this is what I want. So if you want to win in life, you have to be courageous and you have to put yourself out there to win. But I thank you guys for checking out this video. Daily wisdom. I have more coming on the way. I'll catch you guys in the next one. I'm out.